This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Terra Nova Earth Talks. We speak with cutting-edge experts and wise elders from across the globe on the issues and action our Earth is calling for. Brought to you by the Terra Nova Foundation, driving environmental change through human connection and collective action. Welcome to Terra Nova Earth Talks. Today we are talking artificial intelligence, AI. It's become front and centre and grabbed the public's attention over the last year or so as products such as ChatGPT and others have opened up AI in a way that people can start to see the application in everyday life. However, AI incorporates an incredibly wide range of types, uses, and potential applications. It can be considered weak, where it simply answers questions or does simple tasks, or it can be considered strong, where complex systems are human-like, performing sophisticated operations, solving problems without human intervention. But what is the intersection between AI and the environment? Or do they intersect? How do they intersect? When do they intersect? Are we to be worried about the intersections? We know that we are the Earth and the Earth is us. So by that definition, AI is also Earth, as it comes from us. Also, like the majority of products we make as humans, AI will leave a significant footprint to build, operate, and to decommission. Just as the Earth's accelerated change is a reflection of our behaviour over the last 100 years, AI, the simulation of human intelligence in machines, also reflects us. So what does that mean for our future? It means that who we are, the way we connect and interact as a species with our Mother Earth, will be seen in the development of AI. There are calls for ethical frameworks to be quickly put in place for AI so that it is protective of humans. However, this arguably is missing the bigger issue. Our ethics right now are not protecting the Earth. We are super fortunate today to be joined by an internationally recognised authority on ethical AI, global AI ethics, Internet of Things, innovation and smart cities. He is the author of World 3.0, an innovative, integrative approach to human advancement that synergistically combines the power of three components of intelligence: artificial intelligence, consciousness, and spirituality, and a new human potential. He is founder of AIethics.world and the Ethical AI Certification and Maturity Model, recently tested with NASA. We welcome Matthew James Bailey. It's a pleasure to have you here on Terra Nova Earth Talks.
Hi, Rose. Greetings to New Zealand. It's great to be speaking with you.
Yes, well, we should place you. Whereabouts are you right now?
I'm currently in Colorado. So I've just been checking the cricket, actually, and England thankfully won the third game of the Ashes against Australia, so we're still in it. But Colorado in the USA.
Oh, you're showing signs of some of your upbringing there, referencing cricket. That's not a usual American reference, that's for sure.
Well, AI is used in cricket all the time, by the way. Did you know that?
No, I did not. Oh, this is good.
Yeah, so AI is used as the Duckworth-Lewis hotspot, snickometer to predict performance of players, to look at weaknesses in teams. You even have technology in the bats and the ball now to actually monitor the performance of the batsmen and the way they play. AI is literally everywhere.
That's amazing.
Even in cricket.
Is that taking the charm off cricket? I don't know. Maybe. My history of cricket is always being on a grassy slope, for the day and having a picnic, watching it. So,
well, that's what cricket's for, right? I remember Richard Hadley. He was an amazing cricketer way back in the 80s with Botham and the others, right? He used to kind of save New Zealand all the time. He was a great player. Anyway.
Yeah. So, well, we've dived into cricket and AI without even starting. So this is going to be fun. So let's kick off with I'm keen to get some grounding on AI because It's a very big topic and people can often talk about it like it's a very simple thing, but it's actually quite a complex area. It encompasses a wide variety of types and you could argue that there's almost unlimited uses to AI, especially going forward. But how would you define AI? And I've got a second part to the question. Because how did you end up in AI?
Oh, goodness me. Well, which one do you want me to answer first? So there are different, if you like, variations or progeny of artificial intelligence, right? So we have, there's all sorts of different areas. People talk about AI, machine learning, deep neural nets, and deep learning networks, and all sorts of different things. So put simply, artificial intelligence are algorithms that run on computers that have been trained on data to do a particular task, right? To be able to detect whether the batsman has edged the ball. Like with ChatGPT, a language model, which is a remarkable innovation. In fact, ChatGPT is a large language model. It uses neural networks, deep learning technologies, reinforcement learning, unsupervised learning, all sorts of different techniques that we learn as humans to actually understand language and communicate in any language. And then we've got AI in cars, AI for voice. So your Alexa or your Siri can understand what you're asking. Artificial intelligence is used in education. It's used in predicting stocks and the markets. Yeah. It's used in healthcare. I mean, basically, it's self-driving cars. You name it. AI is literally everywhere. Wherever there's a computing chip, there's probably an artificial intelligence running on there.
Yeah, right. So,
and they vary in complexity, right? So on your phone, you'll have these simple filters that you use on your phone for filtering. That's a very simple form of artificial intelligence. When we look at ChatGPT, it's running on the 6th largest supercomputing farm in the world. Yeah, right. Wow. So it can go from a very, very small level of intelligence doing something beneficial, like, for example, your filters on your phone, to something that is actually helping us to actually write film scripts, that's pass the bar exam, that can do your homework, that can help you with business tasks. Yeah. It's just remarkable.
It's amazing, actually. So we have a community platform with Terra Nova, and that has immediately switched into using ChatGPT for a lot of the text and content that's coming up, so that it's integrated. It's not even like you're not even choosing it anymore. It's just integrated into the products that we're using without even thinking about it. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole point of technology. Technology does become integrated into the natural evolution of the human experience, whether that's at home or whether it's in business or whether it's in a social setting, right? Technology does become naturally integrated. So there's 3 ages of AI, briefly, Rose. There's the age of narrow AI, which is today, right? Yeah. And that's what I call the logical machine. Right. And that basically is all about mathematics and basically being able to do a complicated task a human would normally do at the speed of the quantum. Right. And that is predicted. The age of narrow AI is predicted to be about $15 trillion GDP addition by 2030, which is an amelioration of 10% of the GDP today. So even this first age of artificial intelligence that has no moral compass, that has no cognition, cannot reason, doesn't even know what it's saying, right? It's still creating value through increased efficiency in our systems. And it's remarkable, all the way from monitoring the energy of data centers and optimizing energy in data centers through to giving patient healthcare and ensuring that people are in a great well-being experience. So that's kind of the age of narrow AI. Then we're about to embark into the next age of AI, which is really interesting, the age of strong AI, or artificial general intelligence, where basically AI starts to develop more of human capabilities around cognition, reasoning, even becoming self-aware. Right, and we can talk about So,
I definitely want to talk about that. That's good.
Right, we can talk about that. So that's the age of second AI, where basically AI is developing greater human capabilities that we have as in our brains, if you will. And then the third age of AI, which everybody's probably panicking about, but please don't panic, to quote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is the technology singularity, which is the age of super AI, where basically artificial intelligence has equivalent to human capabilities in terms of what we're able to do with our brains. And then it's able to code itself and basically improve itself without human involvement. And so basically it races away in intelligence. So a couple of things, just briefly. One is AI is briefly built on the Western mindset of what intelligence is, which is a human brain. Right?
Yeah.
If you go to the Vedas and look at the Indian view of what intelligence is, it's actually everywhere, right? So AI is literally built on the way that the brain has worked, and that's what neural nets are. They're very loosely designed on the way that our neurons work in our brains, but we're far more complicated in our brains. I mean, they're remarkable biological computing machines, if you will. But
now, I'm going to interject, but that's quite fundamental, right? That even the definition of AI is quite a different construct depending on where you are in the world. So intelligence can mean different things in different places.
So here's the crux. That's exactly right. So the Vedas talk about, which Buddhism and Hinduism came out of, is intelligence is everywhere, right? It flows through the continuum of life. It flows through the continuum of the quantum substrate in our universe, right? In which consciousness resides, right? So actually consciousness itself is a remarkable innovation because it helps us to understand reality, right? So just imagine every single person has the gift of consciousness through their brain, if you like, to be able to interpret reality and to participate in reality. And that's where ethics come in, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So consciousness itself is a remarkable field of intelligence. So the question is this: we're in this field of intelligence. How do we integrate this new intelligence to interface into this field of intelligence in which humans are in? How do we interface it benevolently and ethically in order for it to allow us to advance in capabilities of intelligence as humans, to move into new potentials on Earth and in space, to create environmental harmony without actually deleting us, right? We don't want to be deleted. Right?
No, well, we're probably a little bit at risk at that at the minute because we are destroying our beautiful Earth, right? So logically, if you're an alien looking down on Earth, you would probably not consider us to be a very helpful species on this planet. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm a big fan of Alan Watts and his philosophy, and we need to stop fighting with nature. This has been ingrained in our systems. We'll pay our way out of environmental, destruction. Basically we need to fight against nature, and that's really silly. That's not the way the universe works, right? No.
It's about being in harmony with nature. Lao Tzu talked about this, the Chinese philosopher. It's about being in harmony with nature because, as you said at the start, we are Earth creatures. We're part of the biological continuum.
Totally.
And so therefore, let's stop fighting against nature. Let's start to be in harmony with nature.
Yeah, and identify more how we are with nature, as opposed to constantly just trying to control it and control our environment, which is, it hasn't worked well to date, controlling nature.
No.
So we might want to just move on from trying that in the future, I think.
Yeah, this fighting with nature is really quite unhelpful, and it creates a very brittle energy. Being in harmony with nature creates a softer, gentler energy of expansion and possibility, right? So we look how do we bring regeneration principles into ecosystems, right? How do we start to use natural ways of the bacteria in the earth thriving without us using pesticides and other things like that are destroying life, Right? So we need to move from this anti-life movement into an environmental life and harmony movement. We really, really do.
So, Matthew, how on earth did you get into AI ethics? How were you? Did you start out as some sort of technical engineer or some type of AI inventor in the past? Like, what's your journey into this space?
Well, yes, really. It's a combination of. So my background is in computing. So I have 2 degrees in software engineering, and I wrote my first algorithm in AI. We didn't call it AI in those days, in 1996, for electric vehicles, right? To optimize the energy of lead acid batteries we were using in those days, which were a nightmare to manage. So I've always been in the computing industry, and I've done a lot. I've built a lot, run teams and built products that have been sold in tens of millions around the world, and just done a lot. And it was about 10 years ago, I asked a very dangerous question, Rose. I asked the universe, who am I and why am I here?
Oh, yeah, you've got to be careful of questions like that,
right? And from there, I basically got understanding around my purpose and mission to serve humanity and our consciousness. So that then took me into global leadership around the Internet of Things and smart cities. But I knew very well, because of my own journey in consciousness and spirituality, that development of intelligence was going to transplant itself into the computing continuum, into the age of artificial intelligence. And so effectively, I knew this was coming from a very, very long time ago. And so basically, it was on a retreat with myself after I'd finished the second stage of global leadership and got this information. It's time for artificial intelligence now, Matthew. And so it's like, okay, what's the first thing to do? Well, write a thesis for the world with solutions and inventions. So I did.
Just a small task.
There we are. Inventing World 3.0, Evolutionary Ethics for Artificial Intelligence.
I do love this because quite often people will say to me, what can I do? And my answer is usually straight back to them, well, who are you and what contribution do you think you could make? Because I think it's kind of limitless what we can do, but it's like opening up that space, opening up the doors to possibility as you as an incredible individual, right? And everybody is incredible in different ways. So there's a joy in that, right? That if you work out how you could apply yourself, that's an incredible gift, if you like.
Yeah, so everybody has potential. Everybody has talents and gifts. And in the age of artificial intelligence, the measure of it doing well, or one of the measures, is the thriving of the individual in their body, mind, and spirit. That's one of the measures. Right. We want everybody to fulfill their potential and even go beyond that. Right? Yeah. And that's really important for artificial intelligence to be shepherded towards the well-being of the individual, the well-being of their society, communities, and nation, and also the well-being of our world, in order for us to leap beyond the systems of control that we have today into new systems of thriving, moving away from top level down control into freedom and governance at the community level, right? This is what Jordan Peterson talks about, and I agree with him, is that artificial intelligence is here to assist us to move into these new potential, to understand who we truly are as a human species on Earth and in the cosmos, and to help us to attain those new potentials. That's really important, right?
Because I think
the point of intelligence.
Yeah. So, I think people are quite fearful of AI and are having increasing conversations now. If climate change wasn't enough to get us scared in our boots, shaking in our boots, AI, just is lumped on top of that. But one of the things I think is that I think people often are looking at AI, and I keep moving away from this, is our intelligence as in our brains, what knowledge we have in our brains compared to AI. Well, of course, it's likely to be not comparable because AI is accelerating all of our knowledge, like you were mentioning, your neuron process. It's accelerating all of that. So something that would take us a day might take a second in terms of AI to work out. Sure. But we are not simply just a robotic brain. We're a bit more than that. So I guess it's a wonderful reference, I think, for people to go, actually, we're not comparing like with like here. We're comparing us as quite a sentient being that has huge capacity, if we can tap into it, compared to a computer, essentially.
Absolutely. So we are this quantum intelligence. People might want to call it spiritual intelligence. That's fine with me. But we're in this continuum of consciousness that really is remarkable, where we can access any information we want, and we can bring that information into reality to innovate new products, which is what I did, and NASA used them, right?
Yeah.
So really, I love the way you're going with this, is because intelligence, Rose, is everywhere.
Nice.
Intelligence is everywhere, right? It's not just in our brain. This is one of the reasons why people are struggling with artificial intelligence, right? Is because they're using the brain, and the answers aren't in the brains. The answers in the intelligence, the field of intelligence. We need new enlightened wisdom to shepherd this new intelligence on planet Earth that has never, this type of intelligence has never been here before on planet Earth. Rose. So we need enlightened wisdom to actually shepherd intelligence itself into the continuum of biological intelligence in order for us to truly thrive as biological experiences.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because this could sound quite airy-fairy, I'm sure, to some people. But I often look at the magic of things like biomimicry. You know, when I spoke to a young person recently and she was studying biomimicry, and she said, oh, it's extraordinary what I've learned just by watching nature, you know, and now I can apply that to all sorts of business ideas and in her case, engineering of different things. And I think that's some of the things, if we can start to look at our Earth as part of that wonderful and generous tank of intelligence, if you like, that everywhere we look, if we open up, we can start to see nature doing its thing. And there's wonderful examples of, I often say, I studied zoology at university, and we did not talk about the underground networks of roots and fungi and bacteria, because that wasn't really developed, right? But now we know that. Now we've found out these with numerous studies now about how trees are talking to each other through these incredibly complex networks under the earth that we had very little knowledge about whatsoever. And these are the sorts of things that are becoming apparent, you know, by us just sort of opening up and going, maybe a tree is not just a tree in the way that we've learned. Maybe it's something bigger than that, and maybe we should open up. Yeah.
So maybe the mycelium network is our master. Maybe that's the case. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
I think it goes 70% of the Earth, the mycelium network, isn't it? Which is remarkable. Let me just share a statistic with you that I learned recently. There is this view that biology is bad, right? It's like, we're not going to live very long, so we want to live forever. Well, I say to that, we already are eternal, so get over yourself. But actually, I learned the other day that we have 23 perceptions, 23 senses. And the 23rd sense they've just discovered, Rose, is we're able to detect gravitational waves. And this is remarkable. So when there's a solar flare, when a solar flare hits the Earth, they've got video recordings of people, the guys that did the study, of people all over the Earth in different places, all of a sudden going indoors for no reason. Maybe to buy a pair of shoes. Maybe I may have left the iron on or something, right? But they've got this videos of people all at the same time suddenly going inside. Right?
Instinctively.
And it's remarkable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
My point is that there's so much more that we're discovering around this conscious field and biological life. So why would we want to make it into cyborg machines and transhumanism, for goodness sake? Why would we do that?
Well, let's go there, in fact. So on this podcast, we like to get into the shoes of Mother Earth and consider how she looks at us, right, particularly. So from an environmental view, what would you consider are the major issues for AI coming into play? What are some of the things that you would consider to be significant?
Okay, so do you want to go down the rabbit hole?
Well, we've only got so much time, but yeah.
Okay, all right.
Maybe a little bit down the rabbit hole.
Okay, all right. So first of all, the Earth will be fine. Right, the Earth will be fine. Right. The second thing is that, and I don't know how your audience are going to receive this, but I'm going to say this, right? Is carbon is actually really good. Carbon creates life, right? I'm also going to say that carbon dioxide is really good because without it, we wouldn't live, right? Now, we do need to become benevolent shepherds, right? We need to think about the generations to come and build a foundation in which the environment thrives for the next generations and those after to have a great environment in which they can attain new potentials and move beyond where we're at. So we're on this beautiful planet with remarkable creation in action, right? If you look at the way that the way that the whales move around the world feeding, right? The way you look at the way that woods create natural ecosystems, right? With all sorts of different types of animals in the ecosystem contributing to the development of that. Our world is quite amazing, actually. So I think I think the first thing for us to do is to get our mindset right, which is let's be in harmony with the environment. Let's not try and control it or fight against it, because that is silly, right? And this is the wisdom of the ancients. They all knew this. I think some of the things we need to look at around the environment are things like the air quality in cities and the quality of drinking water. I think everybody should have a human right to high quality drinking water and high quality oxygen. After all, they're some of the key nutrients that we need, right? And then we can look at the food supply chain, and maybe we look at people growing their own food in the future. You know, I had a conversation with ChatGPT around food security way back in last year. And I basically said to it, how would you solve this? And ChatGPT said, everybody should grow their own food. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I think we need to look at, and people being part of the earth in terms of touching the earth and growing food in the earth, re-establish that connection with the earth, right? So I think there are things we need to do about the environment. Certainly, we need to reduce the level of carbon, right? We need to look at our carbon dioxide, but we need to get the basics right around drinking water and things like good, clean air, things like that, as well as organic foods and things like this.
So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you've got to get the context, the priorities clear before you look at how AI can come into play. Because if you don't have that context, then AI isn't really being that purposeful. We're not using it as the best tool. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, so in my book, Invented World 3.0, I talk about principles for artificial intelligence, what I call cultural principles. And I'll read out one of them. Two of them, actually. AI shall support and nurture systems that benefit the well-being of the planet. When the planet thrives, society thrives. Makes sense.
Yeah.
AI shall participate in new systems that enable environmental harmony and a beneficial partnership between the human species and the planet. And that's talking about regeneration. So what we have to do as a species, we need to understand who we are. We need to be mature about this and move beyond these control power things that are going on, these control power, all sorts of crazy stuff that's going on at the moment, and basically get real and say, okay, who are we as a human species? The earth is our home. These are the principles for nature and how we want to function and thrive in nature. Let's incorporate those into artificial intelligence to become a partner to assist us on local system change, national systems change, and global systems change. And if we unleash artificial intelligence sensibly, it can ameliorate the performance of systems, propose new systems, and put new systems in place in order for us to achieve this environmental harmony that we are looking for. Right? So instead of investing billions in trying to get Facebook clicks or in social media addiction experiences, if we invested in AI for our environment, what I call environmental AI, then we might make a leap forward as a human species.
Right. Yeah. So that's leads me into, which I'm really keen to get your thoughts on, is we have influential decision makers out there. So there's everywhere in the world, there are people with various degrees of influence. Some might be in government, some might be in businesses, some might be in their community, who have that capacity and, let's say, gifts of being able to influence widely and strongly. What would you say to them in terms of AI, ethics, and this whole contextual framework for the environment?
Okay, that's a really good question. The first thing I'd say is go into nature and start to look for answers. Right? I was asked to join the board of the Alberta province by the minister of the Alberta province at that time, and the premier. I remember sitting down over a beer, actually, and I just proposed a new innovation ecosystem for the province of Alberta. And he said to me, he says, Matt, where do you get your ideas from? And I said to him, I said, Minister, I get all my answers from nature. And he looked at me and he said, that makes sense. So I think getting into nature is really, really important. And nature does, to your point, provide the answers. And also it's a place of creativity and freedom away from the digital world. It's a place in which we start to tap into that ancient connection with the earth, and we start to access the field of creativity. And John P. Milton, who actually founded the environmental movement globally, actually, who's a good friend of mine, he takes people into nature in order for them to access the source of creativity. So that's the first thing I'd say is get into nature and start to listen to the field of intelligence.
Yeah, and you can do that in many ways, right? You can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nature is all around if we can find it. It's just finding that space where you feel it, you can tap into it. So in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we're pretty lucky because most people are not very far away from abundance of nature at the minute. It is disappearing at terrifying rates at the minute, but at the moment it doesn't. We don't have to go far, and we have wonderful parks and just reserves that are looked after here. But you can do this right in the middle of a city too, right? You can.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is why I do most of my global planning in the mountains, because I'm in nature, and I find I'm able to. It's a different aspect of myself that comes alive, and I'm able to access that, and then basically use that in the leadership of around the world. The second thing I'd say to people is first of all that you've got this. You can access this spiritual intelligence or the conscious field for intelligence, right? Each one of us has this divine spark within us, right? This aspect of source, right? We are source energy in action. And so it's kind of, instead of using your brain, why don't you access the field of intelligence? Start to explore consciousness itself, because all the answers are in consciousness. And then the third thing I'd say to them, I would follow Buckminster Fuller's advice. Don't try and solve the current problems with the existing systems, but build new systems that will take us into the future. Stop trying to build upon the old, because the old isn't sustainable. No. We can see that because of the effects in the world. The environment is struggling in many places. So why are you trying to use the old systems to move us forward? Create new systems that will help us to leap forward. Yeah. And so that challenges their power base.
Yeah, I think I talk about this a lot in regard to sustainability, and sometimes I'm quite rash, and I'll talk about how sustainability is, starting to be defined as just simply less bad, because that idea that it's just trying to move the edges of the current systems. So it will do something, but it's not going to actually shift us away from our route, especially at the rates of acceleration of a lot of our ecosystems disappearing and so forth. So therefore, how do we just, and it's tough for people, right? Because how do we just pause, stop and look and say, oh, we could be doing this differently. We don't have to just amend what we've got. We can actually draw a line in the sand and go, we could do something in a different way.
Yeah, first of all, we need to redefine wealth, right? And beyond the dollar, right? Wealth can be human connection and a great conversation. It can be someone doing really well at school because they're thriving in their gifts. It could be a family unit thriving, right? We need to redefine wealth, people, planet, profit, right? And that requires a new maturity. It's what I call an evolutionary mindset in my book. And effectively, it's understanding that we have a destiny as a human species. We're not frightened of change. We embraced Aristotle's virtue ethics of courage and ambition. transition, and we basically innovate the future. You see, we need a long-term view for the human species, and many of these, if you like, influencers are either looking for clicks, they're looking to strengthen their power base, and they're frightened of change. Because change can be frightening, but we should embrace change. The universe itself is a playground of change. Nothing stays the same. So let's get in partnership with the plan of the universe and get into change, right?
Get into the flow.
Right, exactly. So we have this beautiful potential as a human species, and the planet has a wonderful potential too. And we just need to become mature. So ethics are really critical for artificial intelligence because effectively they allow us to encode artificial intelligence to interface to reality itself. Reality, how an individual understands reality through ethics, virtues, and beliefs and principles, how nations and cultures understand reality and their worldview. So ethics are critical as the interface into the sovereign reality of an individual all the way through to national and global level. So ethics are critical. And they're beautiful. There's lots of moralists out there and religious people out there using AI ethics for social justice and all these kind of things. It's like, guys, let's move beyond that, right? Let's move beyond that into, we want the well-being of the individual to thrive. It's the inner world we want to thrive of the individual, their body, mind, and spirit. And once we understand that, Rose, then we'll start to understand a maturity and actually a new destiny for the human species.
Yeah, this is all quite challenging language, I would say, as well.
I realise that. Yeah. I realise that.
So, in the UK, I developed an ethics framework for sport. And one of the reasons that I went about doing that was because I realized there wasn't a reference point for people. So everybody kind of made it up as they went along, this is good, this is bad, this should have consequences, but actually you do need a reference point for your decision making. And I think this is, you're alluding to it here, that if we can't articulate what it is that's so wonderful and that we want to keep and protect, we won't be able to keep and protect it because we're not clear about what it is. So
beautiful. I love this. So I talk about this. Humanity needs a vision for itself, right? And we're kind of bumbling along, and that's great. We kind of do well at bumbling along, but really artificial intelligence is a mirror back to us to put us, and I'm sorry to say this to your audience, and I'm sorry to say this, Rose, there will be an existential crisis in humanity through to artificial intelligence. And the purpose of that is to uncover truly who we are. What are the best aspects of our humanity to take into the future? What are the systems we need to take us into the future? And understanding our potential as a human species. And so we talk about creating an ethical AI constitution, a vision for artificial intelligence and how it works with biological life, humans, environment, and animals, in order for it to be a partner of beneficial change into new potential and capabilities at the individual and also the environmental and also the national level as a culture and a civilization. So you're absolutely right. We need to code our vision and create AI constitutions.
And we're very lucky here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, because we have the Indigenous people, the Maori people, have wonderful concepts that embrace all of these things that you've been talking about with a language. English, I find, often doesn't. English is a pretty tricky language when we're talking about this stuff.
I apologise on behalf of the British people.
It can get tricky, but Māori does have a wonderful language and embraces some of these concepts. So we're very fortunate in this country to have the reference points from the wisdom of the Indigenous people of this country, which I think is wonderful. I know in other countries people are also trying to embrace and bring this alive for the similar reasons. So I think that there is a wisdom in looking to the old wise elders in Indigenous people.
I think that's critical, and I talk about this. We must look at ancient wisdom. and look at today's wisdom in order to integrate a new wisdom to take us into the future. After all, the indigenous tribes have lived in the land for thousands of years. They understand the land. They understand the song of the land, right? And so if we want to truly understand environmental harmony within a particular nation or territory, we must listen to those that have been there for thousands of years. Their voice is critical in understanding that song of the land and how to bring environmental harmony to the land. And obviously technology like AI can be a huge leap forward in optimizing stuff, but it's built on the principles of the wisdom of the land, right?
Yeah. And the water.
Well, yeah, when I mean land, I mean water and all the other stuff that comes with the environmental stuff.
So this is wonderful. I'm thinking if I was a individual listening in, and I'm listening to you now, and I'm thinking, what can I do as an individual? So I understand, people in government and businesses, there's definitely roles that they can play, and I'm sure they could actually start to adopt ethical AI frameworks for their businesses and for their governance. But what about just me as an individual at home? What can I do anything in terms of AI to help it being more ethical? How can I contribute, do you think?
Okay, so first of all, just to answer your first question, the New Zealand government can go to aiethics.world and they can use our inventions and they can follow what NASA did because it works, right?
Yeah.
First of all, the first thing to say to your audience is this: you have purpose and you have potential. You are unlimited. One person can change the entire world. One person can change New Zealand, right? So trust in your magic that you have potential, and then go and discover what that potential is. What are your talents and gifts? How can your talents and gifts support effectively the evolution of environmental harmony in New Zealand, right? And there's different aspects of this. Some is being advocates, writing to politicians and basically lobbying politicians with principles of the land that have come from the indigenous folks. It could be actually thinking about how to use AI to solve environmental problems, right? They're using artificial intelligence to understand the language of bats at the moment in Israel, right? They're using AI to try and understand chimpanzee language. They're using AI to nourish the quality of bees and beehives because bees are key pollinators for our food.
Yeah.
So look at technologies of how technologies can assist the participants in the environmental playground, as well as actually looking at the direct critical things such as regeneration, looking at how do you kind of use different types, how can you maybe model the climate around a particular bit of land, how can you model and monitor the pollution that's affecting that land, how can you monitor how that land's flourishing, how well are the species doing, what is the land asking for? Is it asking for a different type of species? So for example, in Yellowstone, when the wolves weren't involved in Yellowstone, when they'd gone extinct, basically Yellowstone started to hit decline. They introduced wolves and the environmental ecosystem's now thriving again, right?
Yeah.
Through introducing one species. So be creative, but believe that you have potential. It doesn't matter whether you're a housewife, you're a young child, or whether you're retired in your 60s and 70s. You have a role in shaping our world.
You're still alive, so you've got a role. And I think one of the things is not to be afraid to ask questions about AI, right? So it can feel like a industry that's separate to everything else, but actually it is, as you said right at the beginning of this podcast, it's everywhere, right? It's integrated into many things that we're not even aware of right now. So we have a role to play to actually question, is this good AI for our future? Do we?
Right. Yes, we do. And it's important. So everybody is in the intelligence field. Every single human is in intelligence in action. And therefore, they already are informed on how to talk about a new intelligence, even though it's artificial and being developed by big tech ivory towers, right? Everybody has a voice. A government that actually wants to be re-elected, and a government that actually wants to be inclusive of its citizens should allow the citizens and encourage the citizens to have a voice in shaping artificial intelligence in terms of what's its purpose, what are the principles in the AI constitution for New Zealand, and the public must be involved. This is not about ivory towers saving the world. This is about us coming together as community with different voices, different perspectives to discover our own truth for the future of New Zealand and its experience with artificial intelligence. So everybody should have a voice. That is called democracy.
And you've got to love that. One thing I would say too to that is that every now and then it pops up, AI can save the world. It's a very good sort of eye candy when you're looking on social media and whatever. But I guess to that point, to your summary there, is we can save the world and AI will be a part of it.
That's exactly right. Well said.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're going to sum up now because I can't believe it. We're already nearing the end of the podcast and there's so much more we could dive into. Time goes so quick when you're talking about such things. Is there anything you would like to add at the end here that we haven't covered that you think is important to put across? I know you have your book, which is a wonderful read for people, so The World 3.0, which you can access actually on directly from you, but also from various sites as well. If you want to find Matthew and connect with him, he is on LinkedIn. You can follow him there. But he also is on aiethics.world. You can find all the information about him and the book, as well as inventingworld3.com. And that has a greater description of the book and some of the work that you've done to date. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we start to finish up?
Well, I think that New Zealand is in a very unique position. And there's a new technology in town that can make a real difference. And the New Zealand civilization has an opportunity to use this new tool, this new artificial intelligence, to propel it forward with a new vision for New Zealand, right? What is the purpose and destiny of New Zealand and its civilization? And then start to work out how AI will assist to achieving that vision. And any prime minister that puts this mandate forward will do very well in the next election. So use AI, play with it. It's really good fun. It's a great tool to assist you in the age of narrow AI. And go for it. Just go for it. Don't follow other people's view. Follow your view for New Zealand. What's your vision for New Zealand? Or
whatever country you're in. I mean, we're based in New Zealand, but anyone listening, this is the same for any country in the world, right? The possibility is just very human. And we're anywhere you are in the world. It's, totally. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. It's been such a joy to have you here on the podcast today. Thank you so much for making time and, finding the time zone connection with New Zealand, which isn't always easy for people around the world. So thank you so much for being here. We really enjoyed having you here. And I am sure we will talk to you again in the future, if you'll have us back, of course, Matthew.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, we just scratched the surface today, Rose, but hopefully we can really dive in on some areas that will be critical for us to discuss going forward.
We'd love to do that. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and tune in next time for Terra Nova Earth Talks. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of Terra Nova Earth Talks. For more information on the content and links from this podcast, go to the Terra Nova website. That's terranova.foundation. To listen to other interviews in this series, go to the Plains FM website. That's plainsfm.org.nz. Search for Terra Nova Earth Talks. Also on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Bye for now.